Hello there! Today I'm going to show you how to knit this very easy hat. All you're going to need is a ball of 4-weight yarn, circular knitting needles, a scissors, a tapestry needle, and of course a big smile. So let's get started. So this hat will be worked all in the round. I'm going to be using these small circular needles. I believe it's 45 centimeters or 40 centimeters going around. And I'm going to be casting on 90 stitches. So I'm using this yarn from Ice Yarns called Lorena worsted. It's 55% cotton and 45% acrylic. Suggested needle is 4 to 5. I'm going to be using a 5mm needle. To start casting on, I'm going to take a bunch of yarn and just put it on this side so that I'll have that for the long tail. And let's take somewhere over here in middle. We're going to hold it down with the two last fingers on our hand. And from here, put it over the thumb and over the index finger. And then bring it back in middle and hold it down as well. Now we're going to take the needle. So what we're going to do is we're going to push it from here. Make sure it's not too tight holding down on this side so that you could pull. And then this finger we're going to put in here to hold it. And now we're going under here, pulling, under here, pull, let go on this finger, and pull this finger out, and tighten it up. There we've got our first cast on stitch. We're going to tighten it up, just like that. Now the rest of the stitches are going to be easier to cast on. The first one is always more complicated. So now we have this first one. Now we're going to continue under here, and through this loop over here, and pulling out the thumb and tighten. See, now we have two loops over here. Let's do it again. Under here, making sure we're taking only one thread, not both of them. Under here, and through this loop. And tighten. Let me show you that one more time. Under here, and through here. Okay? So I'm going to meet you back when I have 90 stitches all around. I finished casting on all my 90 stitches. Now I'm going to take the tail that's left over and just snip it off so it shouldn't bother us later. So here I have already the cast on row. Now we are going to join it in the round, which means we are going to start knitting over here. Now before we start joining, we need to make sure, very important, that all the stitches are on one side and that it's not twisted, for example, like that or something, and then it's no good. So we need to make sure that's all straightened, just going around and seeing that everything is facing to the inside. Okay. So now we're going to start the ribbing, which we're going to be doing a ribbing of one knit, one purl, one knit, one purl. So let's pull this up all the way till the tip. Just carefully not to drop any stitches, but it should be as close as possible to the tip. Now we're going to go into this first stitch, and we're starting with a knit stitch. So we're going in and just knitting it. Here we go. Now make sure it's pretty tight under there so that it shouldn't make a big gap between where we connected the circle. So this was a knit stitch. So next one is going to be a purl stitch. There we go. Now next one is going to be a knit stitch. And then a purl. And we're just going to continue doing that. Knit one, purl one, until we reach the end of the row. I'm almost at the end of my row. I only have a few stitches left. Knit, purl, knit, oops, and purl. Now it's going to be much easier because we could see exactly where are the knits and where are the purls. So we're just going to knit the knits and purl the purls. Knit and purl, knit and purl. And since this is working in the round, we are just going to continue going around and around until we have enough for the ribbing. I'm going to be doing 10 rows of ribbing, but it's really up to you however many rows you want. If you want it to be bigger or smaller, whatever you want. Just continue going knit, purl, until the length you want. Okay, I have now finished 10 rows for the ribbing, and now we are just going to continue knitting, just knitting in the round until we get the length that we need for the hat. So now it's just going to be regular knitting. The first row after the ribbing could be a little bit hard because you're knitting the purls as well, but from the second row on it just gets very easy peasy and just knitting. Once you've reached the length that you need for the hat, you could measure it with a measuring tape or try it on whoever you're making it for and see how long you need to make it. And you've reached to the last stitch of the row. I'm going to show you now how you can tell when you've reached the last stitch. So turn your work onto the side. Find where the tail is. If you remember here by the ribbing, the tail was exactly by that last purl stitch, which marks the end of a row. So the first stitch of a row would be this one, the knit one. So we're going to fold it over like this onto the side and just follow this line all the way up. So here, here, just going up and up and up. Here we go. And then you could see that this is the first stitch over here. So here starts the next round. So we are now on the last stitch of this round. So now what we're going to do is we're going to close up the top. The way we're going to do that is you take your yarn and you leave a little bit of a tail, cut it off. Now take a regular needle, a big needle, I think it's called a tapestry needle, put it through. And now we're going to remove all the stitches from the knitting needles onto this needle, to this thread over here, to the yarn. So start by taking them off carefully from the knitting needles onto the needle. You should do this carefully and slowly to make sure you don't have any dropped stitches. Every once in a while you pull through the thread, the yarn, so that you have space to put on more stitches. Once you have removed all the stitches from the knitting needles, now you just pull through the yarn and pull it as tight as you can. Just keep pulling and pulling. We want that this hole over here should be completely closed. So just pull. If you need, pull from the other sides. Almost done. Okay, so we're left with a little hole over here and we're going to close that now. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull this piece of yarn and the needle into the hole so we come out in the inside. There we go, pull it out. So we're going to go through those loops again and again in the round until the hole over here is closed completely. So try to find those loops, which are the stitches that we just removed from the needle, and go in through them. Try to keep it as tight as possible. There we go. Go through a bunch and pull. Another bunch and pull. Another bunch and pull. It's a little tough to get into them because they're so tight, but try the best you can. There we go, it's almost closed completely. I think one more time would be enough. Yeah, here it's really tight, so just try to get in those loops. There we go. Okay. I'm gonna go one more time and then it's done. There we go. The hole is now completely closed. So now we're just going to bind off. So find somewhere to pull through the tail and just make a knot at the end. Just find a loop to put it through and make a knot at the end, like that. And then now I'm just going to thread it through a few times so that we can cut off the tail. Okay. Cut off any excess tail that you have. And there we go. Look at that. Completely closed. And now we're going to sew in this little tail over here. Now if you see, there's a little bit of a gap between where the tail is and where that row starts. So what we're going to do, thread this piece of yarn. What we're going to do is we're going to go inside with this tail over here to try and make it as straight as possible. Just find a little loop over here and go in. There we go. And that makes a bit of a neater line over there. Now just go in a few times. Then make a knot like this, just to secure it down. A few more times to hide the tail. Okay. Cut off whatever tail you have left. If you would like, you can add a pom-pom on top. I personally like this scrunched up look, so I'm going to leave it like this. It's up to you, whatever you prefer. And your hat is done. Look at that. Now, wasn't that so easy and fun to make? I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and found it useful. All the best!